Mike Bond of MMA Junkie and USA Today Sports here at UFC Fight Night 77 Ultimate Media Day with UFC light heavyweight Patrick Cummins. Patrick, back down in Brazil once again. I feel like I just saw you here a couple months ago. Yeah, I did. So, what's it like being back down here again? Obviously a different city, a different fighter. Is it, just as exciting? What's it like?
Yeah, I'm always excited to come to Brazil. It gives me a chance to kind of get away from where I am and kind of tune things out. I can come down here and turn off my phone and focus on what I need to do. And that's been a recipe for success. In the past couple of fights. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there's been discussion about you fighting Glover in the past, but what was the reaction when you got this fight now? Was that what you were expecting to get after the win over Teixeira, or do you think maybe they're going to go a different direction? What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was up in the air. We looked through the weight class and saw all the matchups, and we just thought this is really the only available fight, but we weren't sure if it made sense. And but it was a fight that we were that I've always wanted. This is a matchup that I think really goes in my favor. So I'm excited to have it, and I'm looking for big things.
Yeah, and not to reveal a game plan or anything, but why do you feel like this is such a good matchup for you?
Come on, everybody's been asking the game plan. You can ask. It's okay.
All right, what's the game plan, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be elusive, and I want to obviously Glover's a real heavy-handed, big punching guy. So I want to be elusive on my feet. But I still want to exchange, but in a smart way, and I want to threaten my wrestling, and but not press it. I don't want to be just one-dimensional. All right, I'm here to move forward and wrestle hard. I want to mix things up. I want to keep you guessing, and I want to. When the takedown's there, I'm definitely going to take it. So.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of your wrestling game and the takedowns, I mean, right now I think you have the highest takedown average per 15 minutes of fighting of anyone in UFC history. So what does that say about your wrestling game? Does that say that you're kind of the fighter that's more willing to take guys down and let them back up than beat them up, or what does that number kind of say about your game? Even though numbers don't say everything.
I think it says. That I'm willing to push the pace and it's tiring. It's tiring to be on the bottom, but it's tiring to get taken down constantly and kind of not so much played with, but I'll keep taking you down because I know that makes you more tired than if I just sat on top of you. I don't want to give you an opportunity to rest. So it says I'm here to push the pace and really push you to the limit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Glover, I think, talking about kind of his numbers, I think, so far in the UFC, 90% of the strikes he's thrown have been to the opponent's head. So he's, obviously a headhunter. How careful do you have to be on defense, or what did you have to work on in your defensive game through this training camp to prepare for him?
Yeah, a big part of what we've been working on is just really making sure you keep your eyes open and see what's coming, but at the same time, placing your punches exactly where you want them, and that I really think that's all done with your eyes. So that's kind of, I mean, for me, that's the game plan. Obviously, I want to move my head and stay away from things, but it all starts with your eyes.
Yeah. And what do you just make of him at this point in his career? I mean, he had the 2-fight skid, one of those obviously being to John Jones, which is nothing to be ashamed of, and then came back and didn't look the greatest against Phil Davis, and then got a nice rebound win. Do you think he's still on top of his game? Do you think maybe he's fallen off a little bit? What do you make of him?
My opinion is not really that important. I'm expecting the best of him. So I mean, that's what I've been preparing for, and that's what I expect to see. So whether he's there or not, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, and he's one of the top-ranked guys in this division, though, and there's not a lot of landscape between him and the title fight. I know he was calling for a shot at Daniel Cormier after his last win. Do you think beating him, puts you right up in there in that discussion? I know Jones coming back kind of changes the plans of everyone in the division, but what does a win here do for you?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely moves me in the right direction. I mean, I always say I want to climb the ladder. And last fight I broke into the top 10. I'm expecting to break into the top 5 after this fight, and yeah, I mean that definitely puts a conversation on the table. Like, hey, this guy can challenge for a fight, especially if the fight's done. If it's an impressive fight. Then yeah, you gotta get that hype behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've talked a lot about wanting to fight Cormier again in the past. Is that your biggest motivation at this point, fighting him again, or if you had the option between him and a title fight, what would be the choice?
Yeah, I mean, if I had that option, I'd obviously go for the title shot. But yeah, a lot of my motivation is kind of righting that wrong that that I had in the beginning of my UFC career. I just think it's just one of those things that's always going to be nagging at me, and I want revenge, and I think I'm a lot better fighter than what I showed there, and I want to not so much prove to other people, but prove to myself that this is where I belong, and I can compete with these guys and win.
Is that the main thing, that just because you don't hear you talk about Ovince St. Preux or anything like that in the same way? Why is that Daniel Cormier fight burn away so much at you?
I just think it just kind of got me off on the wrong foot. It took my track. Winning that fight would have really put me in a very straight line to where I want to go. Losing that fight really kind of, my next fight was on Fight Pass, and I really had to kind of take the long, tough road to get back to where I want to be. And I feel like, now I'm back there, and I'm ready to prove it.
Awesome. And last thing, looking at the Glover Teixeira fight Saturday night, what's the perfect outcome for you? Is there, something when you're thinking in your head, this is really the way I want it to go more than anything else?
I think the perfect outcome for me is make him quit. I want to push that pace really hard, and really, get him to a point where he just says, I don't want to do this anymore. That to me is the biggest kind of win. Knockout's awesome or submission's awesome, but I want to get to the point where, he just says, I can't hang with this guy.